Katana Zero is another great game from Devolver Digital. You play as this samurai named Zero, and you just start the game not knowing a single thing. You're put into this world where you have to just kill everything you see by some person on the phone, who you later find out is your therapist, who gives you some mysterious drug, and a lot of other weird stuff happens. You'll be filled with a lot of questions, but not many answers. And that's what I kind of love about this game. It has such a weird story, and I now know why Devolver Digital's E3 is the way it is after playing this game. It's really messed up, and it's just honestly so weird, and I love it. It kind of reminds me of like Killer 7, of being this weird and messed up game, not knowing not much about the plot, but later on knowing some answers, but also filled with even more questions. And those questions sometimes aren't even answered towards the end, as the game's plot is even said to be fed up to the player's imagination, which I find is a little great, but at the same time you don't really know what is going on. And I know that there's supposed to be DLC for this game, and I probably should have reviewed it after the DLC, as it says in a few months there will be DLC, as the government lab says. But I just had to do a review of this game. It's so fun, so addicting, and just a blast to play. I know I talked about the story mainly in the first few minutes there, but the gameplay is just as fun and addicting, and has the perfect level of skill, the player's skill, and the difficulty. As you learn more about the game and you feel more comfortable with the mechanics, and you learn new moves and new ways to approach enemies while rolling and reflecting bullets with your sword and slowing down time just enough so that you're able to reflect the guy's bullet while also being able to roll under the guy behind him that's shooting and slice right behind him as well. And just the fast pace of this game just is so exhilarating, and I absolutely love it. And like I said before, it ramps up the difficulty while also you learning more about the controls. And I know I did a live stream of this game, the first half of the game, but I did the other half off screen because I just couldn't help myself but play more of it, and I beat it, and I even did a speedrun version of it, and I even went as far as to get the secret boss, which is very hard, by the way. And although it did take me a few tries to kind of figure out the secret boss and to find out the steps that you have to do, it's a real challenge, and definitely one I recommend, because it is just also messed up and just crazy as everything else as it is in this game. But there's also another cool factor of secrets and having your own decisions in this game. You're kind of a silent protagonist, but in a way not really. You have choices that you can make to say what you want to say. You can have for example, there's this one section where you can give your guy your sword, and he'll take it for the first part of the level, and it makes the first part of the level harder because you don't have your sword in the first part, but you get it later on because he gives it back to you. But you could also decide to not give your sword to the guy and start off with the sword, having your advantage back and being more fair and how it should be. But there is also the opportunity that you could just go in without a sword. There's a lot of different different ways and different endings, not really endings, but like different outcomes of the situations that you have in this game. Like, for example, there's one level where it's like Electrohead, this guy that you're facing, and your therapist says do not speak to him at all. But if you do decide to speak to him, it's one of the steps to get into the secret boss. There's also the fact that you can go in this level where he tells you not to be seen or not to kill anyone, and if you do that, you actually get a prototype key, which allows you to get another sword, which is pretty cool. But if you don't do that, your therapist gets mad, and it's another way to get the secret boss. So, yeah. But like I said before, though, this game has a really, really messed up story, but it's very intriguing. You want to know more. You want to learn about Zero. You want to learn about this drug that you're taking from your therapist, why your therapist is telling you to kill these people. There's just so many questions, and they do get answered, but some other questions pop up, and some don't even get answered. And hopefully the DLC does answer some of those questions. But I don't want to spoil anything as for the story. But I highly recommend this game if you haven't played it. It's one of Devolver Digital's best games, in my opinion. And it was also like on one of the most downloaded games on the eShop. So maybe you already have this game, but I'm so glad that I bought it and played it, because definitely one of my favorite games of 2019. Just such a amazing story. Even has a good soundtrack too. Fun game, so fast paced and addicting, and it's like Super Meat Boy, where if you die, you get respawned pretty much immediately back to the beginning of the area or the level or section that you were just facing. But yeah, and there's so much replay value. Like I said, there's so many different options that you can do to talk to these people, and the outcomes that come after it definitely impact it, which is another cool factor. And although I would like there to be more endings, there's only 2. It still does do some other outcomes that aren't shown in some other conversations that you have with these people, mainly your therapist, but there are other people as well. But yeah, all I have to say is just it's such a great game, and I'm so glad that I played it. Like I said, I highly recommend it if you haven't played it. Really fun, and just a weird, messed up story game, and I really want to find more games like this that kind of have that messed up story, that dark story like this. And like I said, Killer 7 has kind of the same or similar storyline to this game, where it's just weird and messed up and just filled with so many questions, and you get answered some of them, like I said, but most you don't. And they leave the plot up to your imagination, the player's imagination, which not really any other game really does. But anyway, though, if I have to give this game a rating, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. Probably the only annoying parts that I've had with it is just the trying to get that secret boss, because it took me a good hour while it should have only taken me like 10 minutes. Because there are some confusing parts to the secret boss where you have to do them in like certain steps, and when you continue the game, you some of them aren't recorded because there's an autosave, but if you don't get to that autosave, it won't record your like conversations that you had that you have to get to the secret boss. But other than that, it's great. And it is a little bit short. That's the other thing that I kind of found a little bit annoying. But like I said, this game is getting DLC, which I'm hoping is free. It probably will be, similar to like The Messenger, which is another Devolver game that was great. And yeah, hopefully it answers more questions. And yeah, yeah, sadly though, most of Devolver's games are kind of have been like Katana Zero, where they're short. You got games like Ape Out, and I think even like Piku Niku, Gris. They're all kind of just short games, and it makes sense because they are like $20 and stuff like that. But it's such a shame because they're so fun and they're so addicting and stuff. But yet most of them are short, and the only like long one, I guess you could say, is Enter the Gungeon. That's because it's a roguelike though, because it is randomized every time, so there's a lot of replay value to that, where I have like over 100 hours in that game. While this game I've only had 5 hours in, but definitely will spend more because it's just so fun. But anyway, that's gonna be it for today, guys. Hopefully this changes your decision on buying Katana Zero. Like I said before, really fun game, highly recommend it. Give it a 9 out of 10. And that's gonna be it for this review. So thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more reviews right here on Nick. Bye.